How are you guys? Welcome back to Wargaming China. And we're on the Huai River at Bengbu in Anhui Province. It's February the 8th, 1938. Now, Lippei Ogiso's Japanese 13th Infantry Division was on the Huai River, on the southern bank of the Huai River, by the 2nd of February. By the 8th, there was fighting. It's unclear who it was that defended the town of Bengbu in the 6 days, in the three or 4 days of fighting following the Japanese arrival there on the 2nd. I feel it's the Anhui Peace Preservation Force. Some sources will say it's the 31st Army, but most of them agree that the 31st Army had withdrawn by then. So that's why we didn't see the fight for Bengbu, which is the larger river, larger town on the Huai River. Now that's Little Bengbu. And the assault of the Japanese IJA 13th Division would commence on the 8th of February. Now, for this operation, hang on, can't remember where I put my notes, so I'll have to wing it. So for this operation, if we look up, the Japanese have crossed the Huai River at 2 points, or are going to attempt to cross the Huai River at 2 points here at Bengbu, and also at Huai Yuan. So Rippei's 13th Division has divided itself into 2 independent brigades and is attempting to force a landing at Huai Yuan, which is to the west of here on the northern bank, and they're attempting to land here at Bengbu. Now, the Huai River is a very important river in China. It is midway between the Yellow and the Yangtze rivers. And for most people, most Chinese, the Huai River is the dividing point between north and south. So psychologically, this is a huge battle for the Chinese to prevent the Japanese linking up their armies, both north and south. Now, the 51st Army Group had received the orders to march here to relieve the 31st on the 2nd of February. Their commanding officer, Yu Zhuizhong of the Northeastern Army, was ordered to defend the Huai River. And to do it, he's got 2 divisions. Each division consists of 2 brigades, 4 infantry regiments. Now, that sounds okay, but as the crow flies, his front line is about 70 kilometers long, which is far too much for 2 divisions anyway. But with the meanderings of the River Huai, it's well over 100 kilometers of front line. Now, again, we can see bunkers at Big Bengbu, and again, these bunkers were built by the Chinese military to prevent a Japanese attack on Beijing coming from the north. So it will be completely useless for the Chinese to defend Little Bengbu with. Now, Bengbu as you can see, is quite a big city. And the Japanese had no problem at all rounding up enough boats on the south bank to make the assault on the north bank. Now, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. The attack here is on the 8th, but on Huaiyuan, the attack was launched on the 4th. That attack was successful, and this had made the 51st Army Group have to bend its defense along the River Guo to the west. Now, this was probably better for the Chinese because it reduced the line and did actually give them some kind of tactical advantage that the Japanese had to cross the Guo River. Now, as you can see, usually when this channel I do a Japanese amphibious assault, we see lots of purpose-built Japanese boats from the veritable cornucopia of boats, of small boats and rivercraft that the Japanese Army and Navy built in the first 6 months of 1938. But, as I said, this is before that building campaign. So there's no, and besides that, the Japanese haven't pushed all the way upriver to this point, along the river itself. So the Japanese are going to have to improvise their own boats from the civilian boats that they capture. And they are ready to launch their attack on Little Bengbu on the 8th of December, on the 8th of February. Now, I'm just going to pause it there, and we're going to think about Lai Zongren. Now, Lai Zongren, commander of the 5th War Zone, as we know from this channel, his troops are not very good at all. You know, the quality of his troops are not very good. And their equipment's very bad. He said himself, he's leading third-rate, sometimes fourth-rate soldiers in the defense of China against the regulars of the Japanese army. Now, when we looked at some of the armies of this campaign previously, we looked at the 22nd Army Group, which was ridiculed and despised because of its opium addiction. Then we looked at the forces of the Guangxi clique, who although they did not display the suicidal tendencies of the Sichuan 22nd Army Group when it came to defense, they had shown to themselves to be competent soldiers, even if they were woefully ill-equipped for the battles that they had to fight. And that brings us to the next group, the next army that Lai Zongren will send to relieve the 31st. And now the army Lai Zongren sent, well, it didn't have a very good reputation. It did have a bad reputation, which is always the easiest and quickest kind to get. Yu Zhuizhong's 51st Army was called, or had the nickname, was ridiculed as the No-Fight Army. Now, the 51st Army Group, Yu Zhuizhong's 51st Army Group, is one of those formations which are have at least the very tenuous connections to the NRA. The young marshal, upon the death of his father, had reunited Manchuria with China, but although he had become part of the NRA and his officers had, as I said previously in this channel, his soldiers had sworn allegiance to him. Now, if you want to know more about the Young Marshal's Army and their retreat through Manchuria, you can go and watch my first video, which is the Young Marshal's Army. I did that 4 years ago, and that will explain why perhaps some of the accusations levelled at the 51st Army are a bit unfair. But let's look at it from Chiang and the man in the streets point of view. So the 51st Army, as part of the Young Marshal's force, had run away from battle in Manchuria and hid behind a great wall. Then, upon Chiang sending the Young Marshal's forces to fight the communists, what had the Young Marshal done? He had gone into secret negotiations with the communists, which resulted in the Xi'an incident, where Chiang Kai-shek himself was kidnapped and forced to agree to an anti-Japanese alliance with the communists. Now, as I said, this is a very tenuous link to the National Revolutionary Army. This is the Northeastern Army. So let's have a look why this army would stay on its commander's tit, Yu Zhuizhong, as opposed to Chiang's tit. Because already Zhu Zhuizhong was up to his eyeballs in the Xi'an plot, and Chiang never got a grudge. Secondly, his army has a reputation for running. So why would the government send arms and equipment to an army with such a bad reputation and a commander distrusted and despised personally by Chiang and a fair majority of the Chinese people? Well, Lai Zongren didn't have a choice. So this is the army that he had. Hang on. So having all of this reputation, having just let's not forget, this army had been Yu Zhuizhong had held this army together himself. But it had been a long time since that retreat from Manchuria, and the reputations here it makes Yu Zhuizhong, he doesn't know if he can trust his men. He doesn't know if they have the mettle. So, with his despised and distrusted forces, on the eve of battle, he addressed his officers and men. And here's what he said: "It is time to prove your mettle. Anyone exerting less than his ultimate should expect no mercy from a court-martial." Now, that's pretty determined words. And we shall see after 2 days of fighting that the 113th Division of the 51st Army will still hold Little Bengbu, which is a massive slap in the face to the Japanese. However, to do it, the two brigades of the 113th, the 337th and the 340th, will receive 80% casualties Now, sorry, the 1 brigade, which is the 337th. Sorry, I got that confused. The brigade that's here, it's here in regimental form now, and the regiment that is here now is the 673rd Infantry Regiment. It will face the Japanese. It will fight until house by house, street by street, room by room, until the Japanese are almost in possession of the town and it has received 80% casualties. Then the next regiment will come in, relieve it, and push the Japanese back. During this time, the Japanese will constantly be ferrying forces across the river. And to the north at Huayuan, the brigade there will be pushing northeast. But here is where today's war game will be. And I've set this table up. And to be honest, I'm not sure how to begin. And I'll explain that. So, historically, the Japanese crossed the Huai River at the narrowest point from Bengbu to Little Bengbu. Now, as you can see, the bridge was destroyed, and the Japanese do have bridging columns. But this first assault was from gathered up boats along the shoreline. Sandbags were put on the bows, and our boats were sent across. And this operation continued for the duration of the fight. However, for this action, all the historical sources said that the two armies are in small arms range of each other. The two armies are in small arms range of each other. So that meant that I couldn't put the buildings more than 24 inches apart, otherwise they'd be out of small arms range. So that narrowed the river. So then I had to look at the speed of the river, the speed of the boats. They're not known because it's whatever the Japanese could grab. And if I let the Japanese cross the river too quickly, they'll swamp the town. If I do it too slowly, the Chinese will annihilate them with small arms fire. So although this game is set up to play right now, it may change. I'm going to do a bit of pondering on this today, perhaps for a few test the dice, because it's important to get the battle correct, playable, you know. And I could extend the firing ranges, but I never like doing that. So there you go. That's my today's scenario. I don't know what I'll call this video, because, you know, it's important to remember that the no-fight army and how desperate Lizongran was to use these armies. Oh, desperate, it's all he had. But it's also important to remember that this battle needs to be remembered. I mean, this is even by Chinese standards, this is a forgotten battle. I mean, every battle I like to think every battle I bring you has its novelty and is new to you, because indeed most of them were new to me when I first read about them. I'd like to say thanks to my new subscribers, and as always, hit like, and, you know, tell your mates, share my videos online, and we'll see how this goes. So, anything else to add? Oh yeah, if you want to know what a lot of the guns are, because if we note here, look, this is a warlord army, a northeastern army, but look how many guns it's got. Now, why is the reason for this? Is because the Mukden Arsenal in Shenyang, in Manchuria, when it was in Manchurian hands, produced fine artillery pieces and lots of different types. And if you want to know about them, you can go watch my first video ever, the Young Marshall's Army. Alright, well, I'm going to have a think about this, and Yeah, I'll think about how I'm going to actually play this out. Because a lot of the time, as you know from this channel, I set the table up to inspire me as to how to play the game or to what to do. Alright, that's all for now. See ya.